Good morning. And while we have people file in the room, Lisa, thanks for joining us. I'm going to ask you a question that has nothing to do with anything you're talking about today. And that is, now that it is it's almost fully fall here. Um, what is the best thing about the fall for you?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Probably that I get to pack up my Michigan home and drive to Florida.
Hey, there you go. That's well, 'cause it's going to be cold in Michigan pretty soon, right?
Yeah, it's the wind has been whipping nonstop, and I'm ready for the warm weather.
Right.
Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to the constant sunshine.
Nice. And where in Florida? You've told me this before,
Um,
don't remember.
I'm in Bonita Springs.
And that is, I know I've seen it. Where is that?
It's between Naples and Fort Myers
Oh, okay. Okay.
on the west side.
Yeah, right. That's a pretty area down there. I used to work on a boating magazine. I had clients down in that area. Um, it was nice. Got to go down there a few times. So, all
Yeah,
right.
my mom and dad moved down there, and so I followed them.
Oh, there you go. Nice. That's great. Get to be around some family and it's not 12 degrees.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Leveraging QuickBooks to Provide Advisory Services, Grow the Bottom Line for Your Clients and Your Firm. My name is Gary DeHart, and I'm the publisher of Insightful Accountant and the host of today's webinar. Our speaker today is Lisa McCarthy. Lisa has a deep history with QuickBooks, very deep, we think maybe user number one of QuickBooks Desktop. And I'm excited to have her here and hear what she has to share. And I'll have her introduce herself after I cover the housekeeping items, which are, yes, CPE is being offered for this session. Just like all other sessions, you have to be in session for 50 minutes, 50 minutes. You have to answer at least 3 of the polling questions. We have 4, plus Lisa has another question. But you've got to answer at least 3 of those poll questions. And one of those poll questions we are asking is, if you want to receive the CPE certificate, let us know. It just helps us narrow down our scope of work of what we have to do after the webinar. If you do have any questions, we ask you to put them in the Q&A panel, and we will get to those as we get through the webinar. But be specific. Don't just say, Lisa, what did you mean? Be specific in your question, and that way, if we don't get to your question for 5 minutes, we'll have the context in which the question was asked. So the recording of the session will be posted to our YouTube channel. We'll share that link for you or with you in the chat. And we'll also drop a copy of the presentation into the chat for you as well. And the copy of the presentation will also be sent to you as a follow-up to this webinar. So Lisa, thank you so much. Welcome, and look forward to hearing what you have to say. I'm going to go dark, and then but we'll be here for the poll questions and anything you need. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And go ahead and start the PowerPoint here. Sorry, I got a lot of things open here. And I apologize for my coughs along the way as I was traveling for the last 2 weeks and came back with the plague. So I'm going to do the best I can to get through today without a cough. But I'm really excited. We've been talking about this webinar for quite a while. Just a quick little background on me and Out of the Box Technology. We are a QuickBooks shop, 100% devoted to supporting clients on QuickBooks. We do a lot of data services, and that's, if that doesn't mean anything to you, that terminology, it's really helping clients with best practices around maintaining, especially like a desktop file that might need some archiving or cleanup work because it might have corruption, conversion work. That's what we mean when we talk about data services. We also do accounting services, training, integration support, and really anything that touches QuickBooks. That's what we do. We are not a CPA firm. We do not do taxes. So I'm the co-founder and chief strategy officer of Out of the Box Technology. We are pretty much certified in everything, desktop and online. A little bit about my background, Gary alluded to it. that I've pretty much been working with QuickBooks from the beginning of time. I started with it when it was DOS 1.0. It had been on the market probably about 2 weeks. So I was looking for a small business type application to do accounting. Had no idea because I came from big business accounting. Went into an egghead software. I don't know if any of you remember that, but it was a place where you could go buy software in a box. And they handed me the green box and said, try this. And so QuickBooks had just launched. So I started using the software, fell in love with it, and the rest is history. So I've been on the Enterprise Council for Intuit, worked on a lot of enhancements to the advanced inventory functionality of the enterprise product. I was also a member of the Accountant and Customer Council Advisory Council back in 2006 to 2008. I wrote the entire QuickBooks certification, all the training, all the tests for the professional advisor program when it first came out in 1999. So I pretty much took it from a blank piece of paper to all the coursework that was available at the time. And then I've been a member of their trainer writer network. We're one of the top resellers in the country for Intuit products and services. We also have resources for desktop hosting for those of you or your clients that want to stick with desktop as long as they can. And we're a preferred partner of a lot of different trade organizations. So today we're going to focus on how you can leverage QuickBooks to provide additional services to your clients. We want to give you opportunities to grow your bottom line and help your clients thrive in the upcoming new technology environment that's headed their way. So I'd love to do my own poll question if I can. On average, when was the last time your client upgraded their accounting software? If you could just put in the chat quickly, either an A, B, C, or D. This doesn't unfortunately count as one of the poll questions. This is just my own personal poll question. So make sure you answer all of Gary's poll questions as well. Give you a second to answer.
Yeah, you may have to actually drop that into the Q&A panel. Yeah, there we go. I think chat is disabled.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, so did you know that about 84% of small businesses are using QuickBooks? So they have a lot of choices out there, but 84% of them are choosing to use QuickBooks. So that's why this webinar is focused around QuickBooks, QuickBooks, QuickBooks. That's all we're going to say all day long, because that's what mostly everybody's using. Of that market share, though, 30% are still using desktop. And we're going to talk a lot about what that means for you and your clients. In the past, everybody was on desktop. Online wasn't even a thing. Now online is everywhere. If you call Intuit and you try to buy QuickBooks, or your clients try to buy QuickBooks, they're going to buy QuickBooks Online if they end up on the phone with Intuit. That is really the only thing they're going to offer, other than maybe QuickBooks Enterprise. Pro and Premier are not really even an option when you call Intuit Direct. And as resellers, we can't even resell Pro and Premier anymore. So an end user that's looking to buy QuickBooks, or maybe renew, maybe they have an older version of QuickBooks and they want to buy an upgrade, they're going to get real frustrated if they call Intuit, because they're going to be, talked into buying QuickBooks Online. That's not necessarily a bad thing. We're going to talk about that. But that is kind of the direction that you'll see all new users are pretty much entering the QuickBooks ecosystem into the online product. So you need to be prepared. You need to make sure you're helping your clients be prepared for that change, because it's a big one. So as I just said, clients that are currently on desktop that are maybe just looking to upgrade might find it very difficult to do so. So maybe this is the time that you should be talking to your clients about moving to QuickBooks Online. So why do you want to embrace this? QuickBooks Online and really SaaS applications, as everybody knows, is the way of the future. There's more security for you as an accountant. It's a much easier way to collaborate with your client. It allows for scalability as companies grow and become, national, international companies with remote workforces, connecting to other applications. It's really difficult to maintain with a hosted or on-premise type software. So everybody's moving to the cloud. Also, if your clients want to use third-party apps, usually the most newest up and coming best in breed apps are all delivering models that are SaaS based and that only integrate with the QuickBooks Online platform. So tech stacks are really becoming the way of the future. In the desktop world, when people bought QuickBooks Desktop, they were getting in what they felt was an all-in-one solution. I'm going to get inventory, I'm going to get payroll, I'm going to get everything I need, billing and every functionality, reporting, everything that I want all in one little package. And then eventually people would outgrow that and they'd either leave the QuickBooks ecosystem altogether or they'd find an app that would maybe bridge the gap of something they couldn't do in QuickBooks. But the general consensus was, I'm going to do pretty much everything I need to do in QuickBooks. Well, that's not really the way of the future. The way of the future is there's going to be a world of connected apps that each solve for something very unique, specific to the business owner, that is solving for something that just is mission critical to them. And QuickBooks isn't going to do everything for everybody. It's going to focus on being a core accounting software that allows for excellent collaboration with the accountant. So it's really siding with the accountant. It's what can we do to make the accountant and the client tighter and more connected and able to collaborate. We're not going to try to solve everything else for everybody. We're going to make our platform open with a great open API and allow others to solve for all those crazy little different things that a client might need to get their business done. So that's leading to what's called a tech stack. It's one application that connects to another, that connects to another, that connects to another, that connects to another. With QuickBooks, it tends to be kind of the center of the universe because everything's touching money. And so all the apps tend to kind of surround QuickBooks. And Gary, if you want to pop in a quick poll question right now, we could do that.
Great. Here it comes. It is, I'm going to go ahead and go straight to the one that is specific to what you're talking about right now. And that is, what best describes your practice currently? We focus on desktop, we focus on QBO, we're a blend of desktop and QBO, or a blend of desktop and QBO, but we want to move 100% online.
That's a great question.
We'll leave this open.
Can I give my answer?
After everybody's answer,
not in the chat, no, out loud. So to the participants.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep, we are. Go ahead and close the poll anyway. So here we go.
Yeah. So I think what you need to be prepared is that eventually it'll be 100% online. But right now, you're going to need to support both the desktop and the online clients because online isn't there and doesn't have everything yet that the desktop clients need. So this is a really important time for you as an accountant to be getting in there and digging through these tech stacks with your clients and holding their hand and making sure that they're prepping for the future. Desktop isn't going away. I'm not saying it's going away tomorrow. Okay. Their enterprise will be here. It is built for the bigger business. And they're not going to discontinue that until online has parity with it. But you need to be prepared that eventually it's moving in that direction. Okay, moving on. So why would a client want a data migration? We're going to talk a lot about data migrations because that's what this is all about. All these people that are trying to move from desktop to online, and how is it going to affect their world? Well, some of the reasons they come to us or to you and want to talk about a data migration is because their software is out of date. Like I just mentioned, maybe they're on QuickBooks 2020 and they're using a connected service, and they're not going to be able to use that connected service unless they upgrade. Well, they want to stay on Pro Premier, but they can't, and they don't want to go to Enterprise. So their next option is, I need to move to online. Or maybe they do want to go to Enterprise. That's considered a migration. Maybe their file's too big. Maybe they've got corruption in their file. QuickBooks is the desktop version is a little unique in that it lets you use the software forever without having to start a new file. So I've had clients that have been using QuickBooks for 25 years, and they're still in the same data file that they started 25 years ago. Other software applications don't let you do that. They force you to start a new file every few years. So because people like to hoard data, sometimes their file gets too big, it gets corrupt, and there becomes performance issues, so that people will say, I want to just start a new file, or I want to migrate my data into a new file. Sometimes the functionality and scalability is causing them to want to migrate, or like I said, they want to go to desktop to online, or they're looking for better customer service because the product that they're in is outdated. So other scenarios why people might want to migrate is they might have got an acquisition that just happened. And so now there's two QuickBooks files that need to be essentially migrated into one because there's data that from the merger that needs to, or the acquisition that needs to be incorporated into the new file. Or maybe they've got negative inventory. Clients never do that, but they do. And it's caused corruption, and the file's all wonky and the numbers are bad. And so they want to just start a new file, or they want to migrate to something different, or they want to outsource inventory into a different application. Or maybe they just architected the whole software incorrectly. We've never seen that, right? Where somebody misuses classes or the job list in an inappropriate way, or they set up the chart of accounts and it's not workable, or the item list is set up as inventory and it should all be non-inventory. There can be a lot of architecture issues that if they had just talked to you before they set it up themselves, it would have been done right. And so, you rather than re-engineer the whole thing, it's just easier to start over. So that can be a migration. So there's all kinds of types of migrations. We can go from QBO to desktop, desktop to QBO, QuickBooks Mac to QBO, Mac to desktop, desktop to desktop, third party like NetSuite or Sage or some other software to desktop, or to QBO. So when we talk migrations, it could be any one of these scenarios. When you're migrating from another system, something that's not QuickBooks, so as I said, like a Sage or a homegrown. I've seen people who, built something in like a FileMaker system, and that was their accounting, and now they're trying to go to something off the shelf, like QuickBooks. They might want to migrate because their current system just is not working, and they see QuickBooks as a better fit. A lot of times, probably one of the biggest drivers I see when somebody's on another software is they want to work with a third-party app, and that third-party app only integrates with QuickBooks. So they're kind of forced into, maybe I better take a look at this software, even though I had never thought of using it before, because all the other applications that I want to connect to it in this new SaaS world and this new tech stack environment is going to require me to use QuickBooks. So I'm going to jump on the train. I mentioned earlier that QuickBooks 2020 just got sunset. That means somebody that was on 2020 that wants to go to 2023 might have a tough time if they're not on enterprise. So if they call into it, again, they're going to hear about why they should be on QuickBooks Online. So you should get in front of it. Maybe this is the best time to make that leap and talk to them about the benefits and how much easier it's going to be for them to collaborate with you. So how can we help? We deal with, and we're a pretty big company, and so we do a lot of migrations. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but we can help you and your clients get from the desktop to the online product, or really any type of migration. But today we're focused on how am I going to jump on this bandwagon and help my clients get from desktop to online. We have a team of experts that spend all day, every day, doing just that. So we can help you and your clients with discounts on the new QuickBooks software. We can help you or your staff with ongoing training and support and help through that transition, because there is a lot of transition that goes on. These next slides are pretty heavy on what functionality is going to transfer or not transfer, what some of the gotchas are. And I believe we're going to share this deck with everybody, or if it hasn't already been shared. So this is more for reference for you. But as you can see, this stuff in red, there's a lot of things that don't really convert well, or really are something you should think about during the conversion process. Even something as simple as cash versus accrual reporting. You can run that in QuickBooks Online for the same time period and QuickBooks Desktop, and those numbers will look different. So Gary, do you want to throw in another poll question here before I get too deep into the weeds on these?
Absolutely. It's about migration. And do you work with clients on data migration? Yes, we do it ourselves. No, not at all. We outsource it for our clients. We'll hold this open for just a few more seconds. Again, if you need those CPE, you do need to participate. Lisa, when we had our podcast, you told me how many migrations you do in a month. What was that number?
Hundreds.
Yeah, I can't like
And I have a
number,
slide coming up. Don't steal my thunder. I have a slide
right?
coming up on that. So no, I'm cute. I'm kidding.
No worries. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. 3, 2, and 1, and I'll share the results. So about 65% are saying yes, they do it themselves. 38% not at all. Nobody is referencing outsourcing for clients.
Okay, so you've got about 40% there that are going to need a solution. Because if you don't do it yourselves on a regular basis, it can be complicated. So I congratulate the 60% that have the internal expertise to do it. Migrations can be super complicated. They can be super easy, and everywhere in between. So these are just some things to think about when you're converting from QuickBooks Desktop to online. That a lot of these things might not be available, that features that they were using previously, and that they should, like if they were using sales orders in desktop and that's part of their workflow, that's something you want to make sure that you have a conversation with the client about. How will you manage your workflow with this feature not being available? Have you planned on that? Do you have a front end app that you're going to use to track that? So these are all conversations that need to be had before the migration, but at least having the knowledge of what may or may not transfer or have functionality is something, you should be in front of. Probably the biggest thing to think about that I really want to focus on is payroll. So inventory is a whole nother conversation. We could have a hour-long webinar just on inventory and what happens. But I want to zone in on payroll. When someone converts from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, and let's say they were on QuickBooks Desktop payroll and their plan is to go to QuickBooks Online payroll, it's not just a click of a button and now boom, your desktop payroll is part of QuickBooks Online payroll. They're actually, think of it almost like two different payroll providers, almost as if someone was switching from ADP to Paychex. A whole year-to-date setup needs to be done at the time of migration, because it's almost like you're starting over with a new payroll service. So we've had a lot of clients that have come to us looking for help. Not our clients, but they'll just be, somebody random on the universe that finds us and says, hey, I did the migration myself. I was doing payroll and desktop. I did my own conversion to online, but I started using QuickBooks Online payroll and my employees, none of their year-to-dates were in there. And my W-2s are going to be wrong and my 941s are going to be wrong. And so they were in a panic. And, I'm sure there were plenty of pop-ups that told them they needed to do that, but of course they didn't read them. And so people find out the hard way that that's a whole nother migration that needs to be done at the time of conversion if they plan to use that payroll service. So when you're having that conversation with the client about converting, you want to talk about what payroll service are they using? Make it so it's easy, maybe at the beginning of a quarter, knowing that you've got to deal with a, midterm 941 Schedule B might not be fun. So just time that appropriately. Is the client using inventory? There's going to be some additional setup with a conversion with inventory. Everybody wants to try to do migrations at year end, and that's really not realistic. First of all, nobody wants to work at year end because it's the holidays, you or your client, and it's just not possible. The resources aren't there for everybody to do it at the same time. So I always tell people, look, the only difference between a mid-year conversion and an end of the year conversion is, now this is if you're doing a different type of migration, but like let's say you're moving from Sage to QuickBooks. The only difference there, if you're doing a lists and balance approach, is you have to enter a year-to-date profit and loss. Everything else in the conversion process is the same. So we try to encourage people to do the conversion before year end, because by the time year end hits, you got a lot of other tasks to do and you're going to be busy. So trying to do it all at the same time and over a holiday is often a big challenge. Like we've probably already started lining up our year end, those that will be available that we can do, capacity wise, we've already started lining those up for this year end. Also, you need to consider, is there a front end app that integrates with QuickBooks that's also part of this migration? So I'll give you an example. We got a lot of clients that use a product called Service Titan. Great front end field service type management, and they integrate it with desktop. The client decides, I want to move to QuickBooks Online. So that might go great. And then they go to reconnect their Service Titan instance. Service Titan integrates with QuickBooks on the back end, the customers and vendors and item list, using a unique identifier that isn't even visible to the end user. So when that conversion is done on the QuickBooks side from desktop to online, and Service Titan tries to start talking again to the new online instance, those records that were in Service Titan and QuickBooks and talking before no longer line up, because the unique identifier that's assigned in the converted file is now different. So you actually have to have a conversation with that front end provider and say, hey, can you clear out those unique identifiers? I'm going to do a conversion so that when it starts to talk again, it doesn't duplicate all the names and think that they're all new. So there's just so many things you got to think about and conversations you have to have with your clients when they're considering a migration. Do you want to go ahead before I get into this, Gary, and do another, or do you want to wait closer to the end? Cool.
Yeah, we can wait.
Okay. So out of the box is here to help you with this conversion service if that's something that your firm is not wanting to get involved in. So we can work direct with your client, or we can work behind the scenes with you being kind of taking the lead and project managing the timing and all of that. We'll take a back seat or a front seat, whatever, however you'd want us to go about it. We have two different packages available. One is what we call our basic migration, where we will do the migration from desktop to online. And if we have to run some additional utilities to archive data, if the desktop file has that 750,000 target limit, if you're familiar with that, it's just a technical limit inside of desktop. If your client has hit that limit, we have to do some additional work to get that file in a position that we can do the migration to QuickBooks Online. In this one, we do a high-level overview of the grand totals pre and post conversion to make sure that that conversion was successful. And then we have a higher level service, our standard migration, where we'll do all the things of the basic migration, but then we do a bigger or a more in-depth review of the results. We won't just check totals, we'll check each individual account balance, make sure AR and AP pre-post, those individual summaries at a client or vendor level are correct, re-update bank reconciliations and credit card reconciliations which do not transfer, and do a closer look at the inventory that converts. Okay, couple things. When you're going to migrate or work with a client on migration, you want to be really clear on helping manage their expectations. It's going to feel completely different for your client. This is a huge opportunity for you to gain additional services. So even if we do the migration for you, or you do it yourself on behalf of your client, just know they're going to need training. They're going to freak out when they log into QBO and everything looks different. So it's going to be really uncomfortable for them at the beginning. There's so much additional training that you can provide to them and help them over that scary situation, because one of the biggest shifts is the whole bank feed, credit card feed. In desktop, yeah, people used it, but they didn't use it as heavily as all of a sudden when they're thrust into QuickBooks Online. All of the pop-ups and the navigation, everything is built around these feeds. And so they're going to get looped into wanting to do that. And that might not be the best workflow for them. So they need to be trained on how to use the bank feed, not to duplicate information by using a bank feed. So it's a great place for you to be their, right-hand person, be available to them right after conversion, schedule appointments with them, every day that first week of conversion, so that they know you're there and you can get them pushed off in a good start. They're going to need, as I mentioned, the new payroll service. If they have a merchant account attached to their desktop file, they're going to need a new desktop merchant account. We can help them get discounts on those things as well. Again, we talked about coordination with a third-party app. Post-conversion services, we just talked about it, training, collaborating, advising. That's all going to be so much easier once they're in the online platform for you to provide all your great services. So that's the number you asked for, Gary. That's how many conversions we've performed. Not the exact number, but we've done more than that. So it's a lot. We've been doing conversions for a long time, and this is a really popular thing that's going on right now, is the conversion process. We have over 60 employees. We're in over 21 states, and just happy to have the presence that we do, and the ability to help so many people in so many places. So I'm going to leave this slide up for a minute. Jennifer Abney on our team is the one to contact if you would like help migrating some of your clients. We totally will respect your relationship with your client. We're not here to take them away. We're just here to help through a migration if that's something you want assistance with. So her information's on the screen. I'll leave it up. And then Gary, if you want to do another polling question.
All right, I will do that. And actually, this is around advisory. And here we go. Question is pretty straightforward. Do you offer advisory services? Just a simple yes or no. And then I'll have a couple of questions I want to run past you, Lisa, after we get through this. And again, if you do need the CPE, go ahead and participate in the poll to show that you were here and you were awake. We're going to close this out in about 5 more seconds. 3, 2, and 1, and we were at about 65, 60, 40 yes advisory, 40% no on advisory. So Lisa, on that topic, the advisory topic, you were just touching on kind of the opportunities that kind of surround this migration. And I'm going to wind back to our discussion when we had our podcast a few weeks ago. And that was, I mean, I would imagine the majority of the migrations you're doing now are desktop to online. But I believe you did say when we had our podcast that you, on occasion, do have people that are going the other direction, online to desktop.
Yeah.
What have been the reasons or the drivers for that? It just seems counter to the wave.
Maybe there was some functionality that somebody thought would be available and online, and they got onto that platform, and it wasn't, not how clients talk to their accountant before they make this decision on software. It used to be when you bought software, you would talk to your accountant and they would make a recommendation, and then the client would go out and buy that software. For the last 20 years, it's been more, I'm just going to go buy what I want, and then I'm going to tell my accountant about it after. And then the accountant's left to kind of pick up the pieces. So clients will make the decision on their own because they talk to, their neighbor or whatever, maybe don't do enough due diligence and get on the platform, and they thought it would have something, and they can't find a third-party app to do what they're trying to do, or they just don't want to do that. And so they talk to somebody else that says, well, I'm on desktop. And so they say, well, I want to go to desktop. Or we have somebody that was on desktop that converted to QBO, didn't like the experience, and wants to convert back. That's probably the more common.
Is that typically because they just have a little more complicated?
Yeah. They might be like a construction company that has really complex job costing, and they don't have a front end or a way to get the reporting, another way. And the boss thinks it's a good idea to switch to QBO, makes that decision, and then the accountant is like, whoa, and switches them back. So we're out of the box is working really hard to provide resources to accountants and end users to allow them to move to QBO with some add-on tech stack options to provide the same reporting and functionality that is available. Um, but it's complicated. You got to have a lot of conversations. So it's just sometimes people aren't ready to make that leap to online because they haven't finalized their tech stack. And so they say, I want to go back to desktop. Doesn't mean I won't go back to online, but I want to go to desktop back because I just need to have my world back for a while and then take my time, take a step back, really figure out what I'm going to need and then make the leap back. So
And that, there's money involved there, there's time involved, there's expense. Actually, I had breakfast with a buddy of mine who works for a private equity firm, and as they buy these companies, they send him in. He's on kind of in a CFO position, and he goes in and helps move them over to the PE firms, accounting standards. And this company that they have currently is a national company with a large footprint. They're on QuickBooks. I didn't ask them if it's desktop or online. I'm pretty sure it's desktop, but they, like a year and a half ago, we're shifting to NetSuite. And so for the last year and a half or so, they've been running basically two sets of books. He said
oh my gosh.
they've got three people because they don't know because the implementation didn't go well, et cetera. So they have three people that sit in this one office who are managing QuickBooks for them. And then they have two or three other people who are running the NetSuite accounting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, just kind of a mess, right? And actually, that's funny.
Migration it's not fun. It's not pretty. It can be super complicated. It almost never is perfect. Even if you do a migration 100% perfect, the client might get in the new software and they don't like it. They still don't like it. It just, well, my old software used to do this. Well, it's different. You think this is different. It has different features and it's got, there's pluses and minuses to everything. So, but it is the way of the future. So you just got to keep remembering it's not just QuickBooks, it's every software platform in the universe. So everybody's moving that direction. So you just need to really be thinking that top of mind with every conversation with your client. What does their tech stack look like? What are they thinking about? What's the plan for the future? And it opens up a whole nother way, a whole nother conversation and advisory service that you could be doing with your clients.
And what does that look like? So, I mean, I think it was roughly 2/3 of the people on said they're currently engaged in advisory, but that means a third of them are not. What is that process? Can you just share a little bit more of the time involved? Let's say it's, not a super complicated, and I know that's a very vague term, but it's not a super complicated migration that you deal with. From what you're saying, I mean, there's a lot of data points you have to look at, and there are those conversations that you need to have with the client. Are those 20-minute conversations? Are they 5-hour conversations?
No, they're again, it depends on the complexity, but they're at least an hour.
Okay.
It's at least an hour understanding what their workflow is. You can, it's a great time to say, hey, why don't you just engage me to shadow what you're doing, walk me through your accounting workflows. If we get nothing else out of this, we can maybe identify some efficiencies or inefficiencies that could be obtained from doing things differently. If I don't dig in and see exactly what you're doing and how you're doing it, it's really hard for me to help you, right? So have them walk you through a day in their life. How do they process orders? How do they fulfill orders? How do they invoice their customers? I know you know how to do it in QuickBooks, but how did they do it? What weird nuances do they have in their world? What are they doing in Excel? Because they can't figure out how to come up with a methodology in QuickBooks. And through that, you'll kind of have enough information to know what they need to be considering in their migration process. Whether it's a reporting, and maybe you need to do the field research and say, you know what, I see your workflow that you're currently doing today. I'm not sure if that will work in QBO. Let me, would you be willing to, pay me an hour or two to do some field research and create a test environment and try your workflow that you just showed me in QBO, and then review it with you and see if this is something you like. That's something that I've found really helpful, is if you can do a proof of concept for your client before they make a leap, where you just build out a little sandbox and walk through their life, what it would be in the new software, and what the results are. That is probably the best way you're going to gain their confidence before they do a migration.
Then let's say, just using an example client, what is the typical time frame on a migration and kind of the time investment? So we've got at least that 1 hour, but it sounds like it's really got to be more than 1 hour to get a full understanding and scope of the project. But once once you guys take on a migration, what's the time frame typically in that turnaround? And I
So
know
I
it
showed you,
depends on the
I had that
complexity.
slide. Yeah, I had that slide with all the different types of migrations. So the answer is completely different depending on which type of migration. So a third party software to QuickBooks migration is your most time consuming, because everything's from scratch. Everything has to be extracted, manipulated, imported, massaged, tied out. The simplest migration is the desktop to online, that there are tools. Intuit provides tools to do it. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. There are a lot of things that can go wrong with that tool, the tool that's available, but the migration either works or it doesn't. So that's why we can do the fixed pricing on those migrations, the desktop to online, because we use the tool. And if the tool is not successful and we can't fix it, then we're gonna at least work with you through what the options are at that point, and get connected with Intuit on the back end. So to resolve, because it could be a data issue, it could be a lot of things, but most of our conversions are no problem. There are just some client files that just won't convert, and we do have to loop in Intuit support. So the ones that are desktop to online, I mean, we do hundreds of those a month. So if that gives you an idea, it's you submit the file, we run the tool, deal with errors, and then verify results, and then give it back. So those are the easiest migrations that we do.
Great. Then I want to get a little bit of feedback from the audience, and that is those of you who have been involved in migrations, or that 60% plus or minus that said they currently do advise or migration work. What have you had more positive results or more negative results? And by that, I don't mean your quality of work. I mean, as it started off as, should be a good thing, and then it turns into more of a nightmare with your clients. If anybody is willing to share that, and again, not looking for details, just wondering if the response from the audience, if people have had better experiences or not quite as expected experiences in doing their own migrations, if anybody's willing to say. Currently, nobody's willing to say, but and that's fair as well. guess that's corporate secrets, we'll call them. So, all right, well, we are right around our 50-minute mark. So let me throw up one more poll question here, and that is basically, do you need the CPE certificate? And I'll go ahead and launch that. And just while that is in process, Lisa, anything in closing that you want to share?
Nope.
Okay, great. And if contact information is there, if anybody needs to connect with you guys just from migration work, or even y'all have you do anything, are you active in social where you're putting out any kind of tips of the week on migrations or anything like that?
We have a whole marketing team of, I don't even know how, sales and marketing team of about 11 people, I think. And they are constantly doing blogs, and we have newsletters that go out. We have our Tech Tuesdays that anybody on the planet can jump in and sit in on. And we have all kinds of different topics. We do a lot in social media, so I can't say everything that our marketing department has going on that team. They're pretty busy. So, I'm sure they're talking about migrations, because that is a huge, huge piece of what we do.
And top of mind right now for sure, right?
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, very good. I think we are done here. We're going to call it a wrap. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your information with us today. Thank you, everybody who was able to take some time out of their day and join us. We certainly appreciate that. Look in your inboxes for the CPE certificates within about 48 hours or so if you requested that. And you'll also receive a separate email follow-up with a link to our YouTube page where this recording will be posted, as well as a copy of the slide deck, which was put in the chat. So thank you again, Lisa. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and we will talk to you all very soon. Thank you.